Hey, you. Yes, you. Come here. Look at you. All sad and heartbroken. What a waste. But hey, I'm gonna let you in on a secret. I have a way to change that. By playing Heartless Hitotsugu at your next commander game. I know, right? It's kinda crazy. How can an ogre shaman do that for you? Well, he taps, deals damage to each player equal to half that player's life total rounded down. That's a good way to start breaking some hearts. Now come on, let's go hurt your squad. Alright, the first way to do that is with Insult and Injury. Both cost 2 and a red. Insult reads damage can't be prevented this turn. If a source you control would deal damage this turn, it deals double that damage instead. Injury reads Aftermath, and it deals 2 damage to target creature and 2 damage to target player. We don't really care about that part, we're only after the insult. Then we got Overblaze for 3 and a red. Each time target permanent would deal damage to a creature or player this turn, it deals double that damage to that creature or player instead. Then we got Bitter Feud, 4 and a red. As Bitter Feud enters the battlefield, choose 2 target players. If a source controlled by one of the chosen players would deal damage to the other chosen player or permanent that player controls, that source deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. Following that, we have Collective Inferno, 3 and 2 red for an enchantment with Convoke. As this enchantment enters, choose a creature type. Double all damage that sources you control the chosen type would deal. Then we have Gratuitous Violence, 2 and 3 red for an enchantment. A creature you control would deal damage to a permanent player, it deals double that damage instead. Then we got Goblin Goliath, 4 and 2 red for a Goblin Mutant. When it enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 red Goblin creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. Then it has 3 and a red tap. If a source you control will deal damage to an opponent this turn, it deals double that damage instead. Then we have Sawhorn Nemesis. As Sawhorn Nemesis enters the battlefield, choose a player. If a source would deal damage to the chosen player or permanent they control, it deals double that damage instead. Then we have Fiendish Duo for 4 and 2 red. It has first strike, and if a source would deal damage to an opponent, it deals double that damage instead. Then we have Angrass Marauders, 5 and 2 red for a human pirate. A source you control will deal damage to a permanent player, it deals double that damage to that permanent player instead. Then we have Desperate Gambit, 1 red for an instant. Flip a coin. Target opponent calls heads or tails while the coin is in the air. The flip ends up in your favor, double damage by a source you control. Otherwise, prevent all damage from that source. For our first set of haste givers, we got Anger, 3 and a red for an incarnation. It has haste, and as long as Anger is in your graveyard and you control a mountain, creatures you control have haste. Then we got Boots of Speed for a single red. Equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has haste. Then we have Bloodlust Insider for a single red. Tap, target creature gains haste until end of turn. Then we have Expedite, single red for an instant, target creature gains haste until end of turn, draw a card. Then we have Impolite Entrance for a single red, target creature gains trample and haste until end of turn, draw a card. Then we have Torch Courier for a single red. It has haste, and sacrifice it, another target creature gains haste until end of turn. Footfall Crater for a single red for an enchantment. Enchant land has tap, target creature gains trample and haste until end of turn. Then we have Mass Hysteria, single red for an enchantment, all creatures have haste. Rising of the Day, 2 and a red for an enchantment, creatures you control have haste, legendary creatures you control get +1/+0. Then we have Fever, 2 and a red for an enchantment, creatures you control have haste. Goblin Motivator, single red, target creature gains haste until end of turn. Then we have Rabbit Battery, 1 red for an artifact creature. It has haste, an equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. Then we have Lava Spur Boots, 1 mana for an equipment, equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has haste and ward 1. Then we have Crimson Wisp, target creature becomes red and gains haste until end of turn. After that we have Crashing Drawbridge, 2 colorless for an artifact creature wall. Tap, creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. Then we have Swiftfoot Boots, 2 colorless for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. For some additional support, we have Fortune Thief, 4 and a red for a human rogue. Damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. Then we have Harsh Mentor, 1 and a red for a human cleric. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact creature or land on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, he deals 2 damage to that player. Then we have Marvin Murderous Mimic, 2 colorless for a legendary artifact creature toy. He has all activated abilities of all creatures you control that don't have the same name as this creature. We have Hitotsugu's Second Right, 3 and a red for an instant. Target player has exactly 10 life. He deals 10 damage to that player. Then we have Basilisk Collar for single colorless mana. The equipped creature has Death Touch and Lifelink. Then we have Scytheclaw Raptor, 2 and a red for a dinosaur. Whenever a player casts a spell, if it's not their turn, he deals 4 damage to them. Then we have Batterbone, 2 colorless for an equipment. Has Living Weapon. An equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has Vigilance and Lifelink. Then we have Fanatic Amogus, 3 and a red for a Minotaur Shaman. When it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to each opponent equal to my devotion to red. Roiling Vortex, 1 in a red for an enchantment. Beginning of each player's upkeep, deals 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, Roiling Vortex deals 5 damage to that player. Alright, for card draw, we have Unexpected Windfall. 2 and 2 red. As additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards, create 2 treasure tokens. Then we have Light Up the Stage, 2 and a red for a sorcery. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Then we have Seize the Spoils. 2 and a red, as additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. Then we have Laughing Mad. As additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards. It also has Flashback. Then we have Opera Love Song. 1 and a red for an instant. Choose 1. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play those cards until your next end step. Or 1 or 2 target creatures each get +2/+0 until end of turn. Then we have Demand Answers. 1 in a red for an instant. As additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice an artifact or discard a card. And it has draw 2 cards. Then we have Ren's Resolve. 1 in a red. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Then we have Big Score. 3 in a red for an instant. As additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card. Draw 2 cards and create 2 treasure tokens. Then we have Solstice Revelation. 2 in a red for an instant. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the spell's mana value is less than the number of mountains you control. If you don't cast that card this way, put it into your hand. It has Flashback for 6 in a red. Then we have Reckless Impulse. 1 in a red, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. Finally, we have Tormenting Voice. 1 in a red, as an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card to draw 2 cards. Alright, for ramp, we have Reckless Barbarian. 1 in a red, sacrifice it, add 2 red. Then we have Fire Diamond. 2 colors for an artifact. Fire Diamond enters the battlefield taps for a red. Then we have Defiler of Instinct. 2 and 2 red. As an additional cost to cast red permanent spells, you may pay 2 life. Those spells cost red less to cast if you paid life this way. This effect reduces only the amount of red mana you pay. Whenever you cast a red permanent spell, Defiler of Instinct, it deals 1 damage to any target. Then we have Mind Stone, 2 colorless mana for an artifact. Tap to add a colorless. After that, we have Commander Sphere, 3 colorless mana. Tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Then we have Felwar Stone, 2 colorless mana. Tap to add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. Then we have Lava Leaper, 3 in a red for a creature. Elemental, all creatures have haste. Whenever a player taps a basic land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land can produce. Then we have Heralded Banner, 3 colorless. As this artifact enters, choose a color. Creatures you control the chosen color get +1/+0. It has tapped, add 1 mana of the chosen color. Then we have Runaway Steamkin, 1 in a red for an elemental. Whenever you cast a red spell, Runaway Steamkin has fewer than 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. Remove 3 +1/+1 counters from him, add 3 red. Then we have Mana Flare, 2 in a red for an enchantment. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of the type to his or her mana pool. Glittering Stockpile, 2 in a red for an artifact. Tap to add a red, put a stash counter on Glittering Stockpile, then you can tap, sacrifice it, add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of stash counters on Glittering Stockpile. Then we have Bender's Waterskin, 3 colorless mana for an artifact. Untap this artifact during each of the player's untap step. You can tap to add 1 mana of any color. Then we have Arcane Signet, 2 mana, tap to add 1 mana in your commander's color identity. Then we have Soul Ring, 1 colorless, tap to add 2 colorless. Then we have Generator Servant, 1 in a red, tap, sacrifice it, add 2 colorless. If this mana is spent on creature spell, it gains haste until end of turn. Alright, for removal, we only have 2 pieces for that. First one is Impact Resonance, 1 in a red for an instant. Impact Resonance deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures, where X is the greatest amount of damage dealt by a source to a permanent player this turn. Then we have Abrade, 1 in a red, choose 1. Deals 3 damage to target creature, or destroy target artifact. Then we have Lindblum Industrial Legacy. The land that enters tapped and taps to add a red, or we can cast its adventure side. It says create a 0/1 black wizard creature token with whenever you cast a non-creature spell. This token does 1 damage to each opponent. Following that, we have 35 basic mountains. Now, pretty sure you don't need me telling you this. Deck play is pretty simple. Play your commander, give him haste, tap him, kill everyone. Simple as that. You're going to be the biggest target on the board. Your pod's going to hate you, but you know what? Fuck them. Anyways, deck price comes out to $47.52.